The Manhattan skyline glowed like a promise that night. But for Lena Whitford, it felt like a warning she didn't yet understand. She stood on the private rooftop of the Ritz-Carlton, the October wind brushing against her dress as she arranged the final detail, a small velvet box containing the Tiffany rings she had saved for 5 long years. Tonight was supposed to be theirs. 5 years of marriage, 5 years of sacrifice, 5 years of believing love meant choosing the same person again and again. Her phone buzzed, a message from Ethan. Running late, big meeting. The same excuse he'd used for months. Still, she smiled through the sting. Love required patience. That's what she always told herself. She lit the last candle. Soft jazz drifted from the hidden speaker. The table was set overlooking all of Manhattan, Fifth Avenue glowing beneath them, yellow cabs streaking through the night like golden ribbons. She imagined Ethan walking through the rooftop doors, surprised, maybe even emotional. She imagined him remembering who they were before the world pulled him away. But then her phone buzzed again, not from Ethan. A notification, a tagged video, Ethan's name. Lena frowned and tapped it open. The screen filled with champagne glasses, chandeliers, a ballroom she recognized instantly, the Plaza Hotel. Then the camera turned, capturing Ethan standing beside a woman Lena had only seen in old photos. Savannah Brooks, Ethan's ex, his first love. And the caption sliced through Lena's chest. Celebrating 10 years together, here's to us. Guests cheered. Savannah leaned into Ethan's shoulder. Ethan raised his glass and said, loud enough for the room, and now for Lena. Some bonds never break. The phone slipped from her hand, clattering onto the marble. Her breath turned thin, shaky, unreal. On the rooftop, she prepared for love. Her marriage was ending somewhere else. And she wasn't ready for what would unravel next, because this betrayal was only the first crack in a much bigger lie waiting to swallow her whole. Lena stayed frozen on the rooftop long after the video ended, as if the city beneath her had stopped breathing too. She picked up her phone with trembling fingers, hoping, irrationally, that she had misunderstood. Maybe it was an old video. Maybe it was staged. Maybe Ethan had some explanation that would make her heart stop cracking open. But the timestamp glowed in the corner of the screen. Tonight. Just 30 minutes ago. While she lit candles and arranged a table for 2, he was raising a glass to a decade with another woman. The wind tightened around her shoulders, cold and sharp. She wrapped her arms around herself, the world suddenly too big, too loud, too cruel. 5 years ago, she had married a man who promised loyalty. But tonight, she was nothing more than an afterthought, a placeholder, a name on a certificate he no longer cared to honor. Her phone vibrated again. A message from her best friend, Marcy. Are you okay? I just saw something. Call me. The words made her stomach twist. If Marcy saw it, the whole circle would soon. And Manhattan's corporate world thrived on gossip more than stock prices. Lena sank into one of the cushioned chairs she had spent hours decorating. The roses she had chosen, soft cream with pale pink edges, suddenly looked foolishly romantic. Every detail she had planned now felt humiliating. She remembered saving for months to buy the Tiffany rings, skipping lunches, taking extra freelance work after long days. Ethan used to tell her she worked too hard. If only he knew how much harder she worked for them. A single tear broke free, then another. She pressed her palm to her mouth, trying to silence the sob clawing its way out. She didn't want the city to hear her break. Not yet. Not like this. Her phone chimed once more, but this time it wasn't a notification. It was a call. Ethan. For a moment, her heart stupidly leapt, still loyal despite everything. Maybe he realized she was waiting. Maybe he'd explain. Maybe. She answered. Lena, Ethan said, voice steady, almost bored. Go home. I won't make it tonight. He didn't ask if she was okay. He didn't apologize. He didn't even try to lie better. And in that moment, a strange, unfamiliar chill settled inside her. Something colder than heartbreak. Something that felt like the beginning of the end. The elevator ride down from the rooftop felt endless, each floor dinging like a reminder of how far Ethan had slipped from her life without her noticing. When the doors finally opened into the marble lobby of the Ritz-Carlton, Lena stepped out with legs that didn't feel like hers. The warmth of the chandeliers, the hush of polished wealth, the quiet elegance, everything mocked her. This was supposed to be the night she rebuilt her marriage. Instead, she was walking through the ruins of it. Her phone buzzed again. Not Ethan this time. Savannah. The notification preview hit like another slap. "You should head home. He's with the person he never stopped choosing." Lena's chest tightened. The humiliation wasn't private anymore. Savannah wanted her to see, wanted her to know, wanted her to leave quietly, like a mistake being erased. Lena stepped outside onto the sidewalk, the Manhattan night sharp against her skin. Fifth Avenue stretched before her, glowing and indifferent. Yellow cabs rushed by. People laughed near the entrance. Couples strolled hand in hand. Everyone moving forward, while she stood alone, stuck in a moment that cut deeper with every breath. She tried calling Ethan back, just once, just to hear something human. The call rang once before going straight to voicemail. Not even the courtesy of rejection, just silence. A gust of wind caught her hair as she started walking, with no direction, Tiffany bag still dangling from her wrist like a cruel reminder. She wondered how many nights she had spent believing lies wrapped in gentle excuses. How many moments she had overlooked because she trusted too easily. How love had made her blind. Her phone buzzed again. A second message from Savannah. 10 years, Lena. 10. Did he ever tell you that? Her breath faltered. 10 years. That meant Ethan had been with Savannah before, during, and apparently throughout their entire marriage. She felt her knees weaken, but she kept walking, weaving through the evening crowd like a ghost. Then a voice cut through the noise, steady, familiar. "Lena?" She turned, and, standing under the golden street lamp, was Dr. Adrian Cole, Ethan's former friend. A man who shouldn't have been there, a man who looked at her not with pity, but with sharp concern. "What happened?" he asked. "And why do you look like someone just broke your entire world?" Lena swallowed hard. Because someone had. Lena blinked at Adrian, unsure whether she was relieved or terrified to see someone who truly knew Ethan. The street lamp cast a warm glow over his face, softening the sharpness in his expression. He stepped closer, careful, as if she were made of glass, and he didn't want to risk breaking her further. "Lena," he said again, slower this time. "You're shaking." She opened her mouth, but the words tangled in her throat. All she could manage was a trembling, He's with Savannah." Adrian's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Tonight?" She nodded. A muscle in his cheek twitched. Anger, not at her, but at something he already suspected. He reached for her arm, gently guiding her away from the busy sidewalk before she completely unraveled in front of strangers. "Sit," he said softly, as they stopped beside a quiet bench near the hotel's entrance. She sat, fingers twisting around the Tiffany bag in her lap. Adrian crouched in front of her, eyes steady. "Tell me exactly what you saw." She swallowed hard and recounted everything. The rooftop surprise, the video from the Plaza Hotel, Ethan's chillingly casual phone call. With each detail, Adrian's expression darkened, as if puzzle pieces he'd been trying to ignore were finally snapping into place. When she finished, he exhaled slowly. "Lena, I don't think this started tonight." Her heart thudded painfully. "What do you mean?" He looked hesitant, weighing the damage of truth against the damage of silence. "I stopped being close with Ethan for a reason," he said. There were inconsistencies. Nights he claimed to be working when he wasn't. Financial moves that didn't line up. And Savannah, she didn't just appear out of nowhere. Lena stared at him, breath caught.
Are you saying he's been cheating the whole time?
Adrian didn't answer immediately. Instead, he sat beside her, his voice low and steady. I'm saying Ethan has been living two lives, and one of them didn't include you. The words cracked something deep inside her, a fracture that felt both devastating and strangely clarifying. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed again, a new message from an unknown number. You were never meant to be part of his story. Stop embarrassing yourself. Adrian saw the message over her shoulder. His eyes sharpened, steel replacing empathy. Lena, he said quietly, someone is trying to push you out, and I need you to understand this is bigger than heartbreak. A chill crawled up her spine, because she believed him. By the time Lena reached her apartment building, the numbness had settled into her bones like winter frost.
She barely remembered the cab ride, only the way Adrian insisted she text him once she got inside. She promised she would. But as she stepped into the elevator, her phone vibrated again, this time with multiple notifications. Mentions, tags, messages. Her stomach tightened. Something was wrong. She unlocked her phone, and the first thing she saw was a photo blown up across her feed. Ethan and Savannah, standing under the chandelier of the Plaza Hotel ballroom, champagne glasses raised. But it wasn't the photo that destroyed her. It was the caption someone else had added before it spread like wildfire. Ethan Hale celebrates 10 years with the love of his life, while his wife prepares a surprise he never showed up for. The comments were immediate, vicious. Imagine being the wife. 10 years? Was he ever actually faithful? Poor woman. She deserved to know. Lena felt the elevator walls tilt. Somehow, the most private pain of her life had turned into a spectacle for strangers. She wasn't just betrayed, she was trending. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Marcy. Lena, call me. Now. This is everywhere. But Lena couldn't speak, not yet. Not when her entire world had been reduced to viral content. She pushed into her apartment, letting the door close behind her, muffling the city noise. The silence made everything worse. Ethan's suit jacket still hung on the back of a chair. His favorite watch lay on the counter. Their wedding photo smiled from the bookshelf. A wave of nausea rose in her throat. She moved mechanically, setting the Tiffany bag on the kitchen island. The velvet box looked painfully small. She opened it anyway, staring at the rings she once thought symbolized a future. Now nothing but proof of her foolish hope. Then her phone buzzed once more. An email from Savannah. Subject line, "A woman deserves to know the truth." Lena hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a single sentence. He was never yours, Lena. He just needed a place to hide. Below it, attached, was a photo Lena had never seen before. Ethan and Savannah kissing in a hotel hallway, dated 3 years into Lena's marriage. The room spun, and somewhere deep inside her, something began to crack wide open, not just from pain, but from awakening. The moment Lena saw the timestamp on the photo, 3 years into her marriage, the last fragile thread holding her together snapped. She slid down the side of the kitchen counter, knees folding beneath her, the cold tile floor meeting her palms as her breath broke in uneven gasps. For 5 years she had lived beside Ethan, believing in a partnership, a future, a promise. But the truth was clear now. She was nothing more than a cover story for a man who had already chosen someone else. Her hands shook violently as she tried to steady her breathing, but the betrayal flooded her system too fast to control. Memories clashed with reality. Ethan kissing her forehead after long workdays, his soft apologies, the way he told her she was home. All of it poisoned now, all of it rehearsed, all of it lies.
Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. The apartment felt smaller with every second, the walls closing in like her life was shrinking to the size of her humiliation. She grabbed Ethan's jacket from the chair and hurled it across the room. It landed with a dull thud, the watch in the pocket clinking against the hardwood. "Why wasn't I enough?" she whispered to no one, voice breaking. But even as she said it, something inside her recoiled. This wasn't about being enough. This was about a man who never intended to be faithful. The buzzing wouldn't stop. Another call, another message, another reminder that the world was watching. Lena's vision blurred as she picked up her phone, but it wasn't Marcy this time. It was her boss. "Given the situation, take a week off. The board doesn't want additional attention right now." There it was. Another blow, another door closing. Her job, one of the few things she had built for herself, was slipping away, too. Tears spilled unchecked down her cheeks. She pressed her forehead to her knees, finally allowing herself to fall apart, to feel everything she had tried to outrun since that rooftop. Her sobs filled the apartment, raw, quiet, broken. Then, through the ringing in her ears, she heard her front door buzzer. Once, twice, a pause, and then Adrian's voice through the speaker. "Lena, it's me. Open the door." Her breath hitched, because she knew if she opened that door, her life would never return to what it was before tonight. Lena hesitated at the door, wiping her face with shaking hands. She didn't want anyone, least of all Adrian, to see her like this. But his voice came again, calmer this time, almost grounding. "Lena, please, let me make sure you're okay." Something in his tone cut through the fog of her grief. She unlocked the door. Adrian stepped inside, his expression shifting instantly when he saw the scattered jacket, the open Tiffany box, and Lena, eyes red, cheeks streaked with tears, shoulders trembling. He closed the door gently behind him, as if any loud sound might shatter her further. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, embarrassed. "I shouldn't have called you earlier. I shouldn't drag you into—" "You didn't drag me into anything," he interrupted softly. "You're hurting, and you shouldn't be alone tonight." Those words, simple, steady, hit deeper than she expected. Ethan had never said anything like that, not even once. Adrian took a seat beside her on the floor, not caring that his tailored slacks brushed against the cold tile. "Tell me what happened after I left you." Lena handed him the phone, unable to speak without cracking. He scrolled through the messages, the public posts, Savannah's email. With each swipe, his jaw tightened, his posture straightened, and something sharp flickered in his eyes. "This isn't just betrayal," he finally said. "This is calculated." His voice was low, controlled, but laced with anger. Anger for her, not at her. Lena sniffed. "Why would anyone go this far? I never did anything to them." "Because you were in the way," Adrian answered. "And Ethan needed you for reasons that had nothing to do with love." She looked at him confused. "What reasons?" He hesitated, a pause heavy with something he wasn't sure she was ready to hear. "There are things about the company. Things I noticed before I stepped back. Irregularities. Money moving where it shouldn't. Savannah wasn't just his ex. She was part of something else. Something risky." Lena's heartbeat stumbled. "You think Ethan used me?" Adrian met her eyes. "I think Ethan used everyone, but you were the one person he thought would never question him." A cold realization washed over her. Not only had her heart been broken, her life had been manipulated. And for the first time tonight, Lena felt something other than pain. She felt anger. Real, rising anger. Lena sat upright, wiping the last of her tears, as Adrian's words echoed through the room. Anger, sharp, foreign, electric, started rising beneath her ribs. Not the wild, destructive kind, but a quiet, focused heat that made everything suddenly clearer. Ethan hadn't broken her heart by accident. He had engineered her silence, her loyalty, her blindness. Adrian watched her closely. "You don't have to understand everything tonight," he said. "But you need to know this. None of what happened is your fault." She looked at him, surprised by the steady certainty in his voice.
"Then why does it feel like I let this happen?" "Because you're the kind of woman who believes people mean what they say," Adrian replied. "But Ethan is the kind of man who counts on that." The truth stung, but it also straightened her spine. She stood slowly, leaning against the counter for balance. "I can't stay here drowning like this." "You don't have to," he said immediately. "I'll take you somewhere you can breathe." She hesitated. "Where?" "My office," he said. "It's quiet, secure, and no one will bother you." The idea of leaving the apartment, leaving the reminders of Ethan, felt like oxygen. Lena grabbed her coat, stuffing the Tiffany box into her bag before she could think about it. In the elevator, the silence between them wasn't awkward. It was grounding. Adrian didn't ask invasive questions, didn't tell her how to feel, didn't push. He simply stood beside her like someone who understood the shape of devastation without needing it explained. Outside, the Manhattan air was crisp against her face. Adrian opened the passenger door of his black Mercedes S-Class, and for a moment Lena paused. She wasn't used to someone making space for her. Ethan never did. Not physically, not emotionally, not ever. As the city lights blurred past the window, Adrian spoke quietly. "I need you to be careful from now on. Savannah's messages weren't just petty. They were strategic." Lena swallowed. "Strategic for what?" "For whatever Ethan is trying to hide," he answered. "And you, being married to him, puts you in the middle of it." The weight of those words settled heavily, but not crushingly, because for the first time tonight, Lena didn't feel powerless. She felt alert, awake, and somewhere deep, deep inside her bruised heart, a small but undeniable spark ignited. She was going to find out the truth. All of it. Adrian's office overlooked Park Avenue, its floor-to-ceiling windows reflecting the Manhattan skyline like a mirror of everything Lena was suddenly up against. The space was quiet, modern, lined with books and case files, nothing like the cold corporate halls Ethan ruled. Here, Lena finally felt her heartbeat steady, even as her mind remained tangled in fear and questions. Adrian set a glass of water in front of her before taking a seat across the desk. "I didn't bring you here to overwhelm you," he said. "But there's something you need to see." He turned his laptop toward her. An email was open, a forwarded chain of messages between Ethan and Savannah. The subject line made Lena's stomach twist. Phase 2, moving her out. Her breath caught. "What is this?" "Evidence," Adrian said quietly. "I intercepted it weeks ago. I didn't know how deep it went, but now it's clear." Lena scanned the email, her hands trembling as she read Ethan's words. "She still thinks the company expansion is legitimate. If she asks questions, redirect her. The last thing we need is her stumbling into this." Savannah replied, "Don't worry. Once she cracks publicly, she'll step aside on her own. She's too emotional to put up a fight." Lena's vision blurred. "They planned this. They planned to humiliate me." "They planned to remove you," Adrian corrected. "Ethan needed your signature for certain filings, the kind that look cleaner when a spouse is involved. And now that he has them, he doesn't need you anymore." It felt like a physical blow. So this wasn't about love, not even about cheating. "No," Adrian said. "It was about leverage." Lena pressed a hand to her chest, trying to breathe. "I lived with him. I loved him. I defended him." "And he counted on that," Adrian said, voice firm but gentle. "But he underestimated you."
She shook her head, fighting the swirl of emotions. Adrian, if this goes deeper, am I in danger? He hesitated, the kind of hesitation that meant yes, but he chose his words carefully. You need to protect yourself. Ethan and Savannah have already started a narrative about you. If they push it further, they could ruin more than your marriage. Lena's fingers curled into fists. Humiliation was one thing. Manipulation was another. But being used as a pawn in Ethan's scheme, that awakened something fierce in her. For the first time since the rooftop, Lena lifted her chin, anger replaced by resolve.
If they want to fight, she said softly, they're about to lose.
Lena stared at the email chain again, her pulse thudding in her ears. The words blurred, sharpened, then blurred again, like her mind couldn't choose between breaking and fighting. Adrian watched her carefully, sensing the shift happening inside her. She wasn't the same woman who had collapsed on her kitchen floor an hour earlier. Something steadier, sharper had taken root. I need to know everything, she said finally. No more cushioning, no more half-truths. What was Ethan really doing? Adrian leaned back, exhaling slowly. Remember the company expansion he talked so much about? The one he said would secure your future? Lena nodded stiffly. It was a shell, Adrian said. A fake project used to move money through unrelated subsidiaries. Savannah handled the PR narrative. Ethan handled the financial gymnastics.
And you, he paused, you signed off as an uninvolved spouse. That made everything look legitimate. Her stomach dropped. So if this blows up, he'll blame you, Adrian finished. He's setting up a picture where you're emotionally unstable, overwhelmed, embarrassed publicly. Exactly the kind of person who might lash out and tarnish his reputation. Lena felt heat rise in her face, not shame, but fury. He thinks he can use me and then discard me like I'm nothing. He thinks you won't fight back, Adrian corrected. He thinks he still controls the narrative. Lena stood abruptly, pacing the room. Park Avenue glittered beyond the windows, reflections sliding over her silhouette like the city itself was watching her unravel and rebuild. If he wants a clean narrative, she said, voice tight, then I'll destroy it. Adrian's gaze softened with something bordering admiration. That's the Lena he never expected. Her phone buzzed then, an incoming call from Marcy. Lena answered with a shaky breath. Lena? Marcy whispered urgently. Every news blog is reposting that photo. And there's a rumor. She hesitated. There's a rumor Ethan is filing separation paperwork tomorrow. He's claiming you walked out. Lena froze. He's rewriting the story already. I'm so sorry, Marcy said. What are you going to do? Lena lifted her chin, her reflection burning in the window. Tired, wounded, but alive in a way she hadn't been in years. I'm done playing nice, Lena said. If Ethan wants a war, I'll give him one. Adrian nodded slowly, as if hearing exactly what he'd been waiting for. And in that moment, Lena crossed an invisible line, from heartbreak to strategy. The next morning, Lena woke to a storm she didn't start, but was now trapped inside. Her phone lit up with dozens of notifications, missed calls, messages, and headlines she wished were nightmares. The first article she opened felt like a punch to the chest. Ethan Hale files for separation. Sources say wife emotionally unstable after public outburst. Public outburst? Lena hadn't even spoken. Her hands trembled as she scrolled. Bloggers repeated the same narrative. Ethan was the composed, betrayed husband. Lena was the dramatic wife who couldn't handle the pressures of a high-profile marriage. They circulated photos of her rooftop setup, calling it desperate, and twisted the story into something unrecognizable. Ethan hadn't just rewritten history. He had weaponized it. Her phone rang, her boss again. Lena, there's more. A client pulled out of the penthouse project.
They don't want their name attached to controversy. Heat flushed through her body.
So I'm losing work because Ethan cheated? I'm sorry, her boss said quietly. But in this city, perception is everything. The call ended, leaving Lena staring at the wall as the weight of everything crashed down. Her marriage, her dignity, her career. Ethan had set fire to all of it in one night. Her phone chimed again. A text from an unknown number. You should disappear quietly. It's better for everyone. Another. Savannah deserves the life you pretended to fit into. And then, unbelievably, a third. Be smart, Lena. Don't make this uglier than it already is. Her breath quickened. Ethan had unleashed more than gossip. He had unleashed wolves. A knock sounded at her door. She froze. Another knock, firm, controlled. Lena, it's me, Adrian. She opened the door, and one look at his face told her he already knew. They're not just smearing you, he said. They're isolating you. That's the first step before they pin the financial scheme on you.
Her pulse stopped.
They wouldn't. They would, Adrian said. And they will, unless we act now. Lena sank onto the couch. I'm losing everything, Adrian. Everything. He sat across from her, leaning forward. Then it's time to take something back. She looked up, eyes burning with the start of a new fire. What? Adrian met her gaze without blinking. Your voice, your story, and the truth Ethan never expected you to find. And for the first time since the rooftop, Lena didn't feel like prey. She felt like someone about to fight. By noon, Lena's apartment felt less like a home and more like a sinking ship. Every hour brought a new leak, another headline, another rumor, another piece of her reputation being torn apart by strangers who had never met her. She sat at the edge of her couch, scrolling through the wreckage of her public image until the words blurred into a haze of humiliation. Ethan had moved fast. Too fast. A new article appeared at the top of her feed. Company insider claims Mrs. Hale was a financial liability, may have signed documents without understanding their impact. Her blood went cold. That was exactly the story Ethan needed to pin everything on her. Before panic could crush her, Adrian strode into the room carrying his laptop and a folder thick with documents. We don't have much time, he said. Ethan is laying the groundwork to make you the scapegoat. Hard. If he gets ahead of us, he'll bury you legally and publicly. Lena pressed a hand to her forehead. What do you need me to do? Understand the battlefield, Adrian replied, pulling up spreadsheets and correspondences. Everything ties back to the company's expansion project. Money was funneled through shell accounts under Savannah's PR branches. And your signature, he tapped a document, was the perfect shield. A trusting spouse, a clean image, someone who wouldn't ask questions. Lena stared at her own name on the digital contracts. She remembered signing them months ago at Ethan's request. He said it was routine, that everyone did it. Adrian's voice softened just enough not to break her again. He counted on your trust, and he exploited it. A wave of nausea rolled through her. So what happens now? If this comes out, if the authorities investigate, could I actually be blamed? Yes, Adrian said honestly. Unless we find something that proves Ethan manipulated the entire thing. Silence pulsed between them. Then Lena whispered, I can't let him ruin me. Not after everything he already took. Adrian nodded slowly. Then we fight back. Smartly, quietly. And before he realizes you're not broken. He handed her a second folder. These are email backups I pulled months ago. Things that didn't make sense until now. Somewhere inside this chaos is your proof. Lena opened the folder, her hands still trembling, but her eyes no longer empty. Somewhere inside her, a fragile steel was forming. If Ethan wanted a war, she would stop playing defense. She would strike. By evening,
Lena felt suffocated by the walls of her apartment and the noise of a world tearing her apart. Adrian noticed the tremor in her hands, the shallow breaths, the way she kept staring at nothing. Without asking, he said, "You need air, real air, not Manhattan air." Before she could argue, he was already grabbing his keys.
An hour later, they were driving east, the city shrinking behind them as the highway opened toward the Hamptons. Lena watched skyscrapers fade into darkness, replaced by quiet stretches of coastline. For the first time in days, the noise in her head softened. Adrian pulled into a secluded property, a modern glass cabin overlooking the water. "I come here when I need clarity," he said. "Tonight, you need that more than I do." Inside, the cabin was warm, filled with soft light and the scent of cedar. Lena sank onto the couch, exhaustion weighing her down. Adrian handed her the folder again. "There's something in here we missed." She opened it, flipping through emails, financial trails, meeting logs, until one line stopped her cold. A calendar screenshot. A name. A location. A date. The exact day Ethan had proposed to her. Lena frowned. Why would Ethan meet with Savannah the same day he asked me to marry him? Adrian leaned forward. "Look closer." She zoomed in. Another name appeared beneath Savannah's, a corporate attorney Ethan still used. Next to it, "Finalize narrative." A chill crawled up her spine. Narrative? What narrative? Adrian's voice dropped. "The narrative of you being the perfect spouse for his plan." Her breath hitched. "You're saying the proposal wasn't real?" Adrian didn't answer immediately. "I'm saying Ethan might have chosen you, not because he loved you, but because Savannah was already under scrutiny. He needed someone clean, someone believable, someone the board would trust." The room swayed. Lena gripped the edge of the table to steady herself. Her entire marriage, every memory, suddenly felt like a carefully crafted performance. She whispered, "I was never the love story." Adrian met her eyes gently, but with unwavering truth. "You were the alibi." A tear slid down her cheek, but it wasn't like before. It wasn't heartbreak. It was awakening. It was anger. It was the moment Lena realized she hadn't lost a marriage. She had escaped a trap. And now, for the first time, she wanted justice. Real justice. Lena didn't speak for a long time after the truth settled, raw, undeniable, between her and Adrian. The fire crackled in the cabin, casting warm flickers of light across the room, but her chest felt frozen. She wrapped her arms around herself, not from cold, but from the weight of realizing her entire marriage had been built on a lie Ethan crafted with precision. Adrian watched her carefully, not intruding, not offering useless comfort. Instead, he sat beside her, leaving just enough space for her to breathe. "It's okay to feel everything at once," he said softly. "Shock, anger, relief, all of it is real." Lena let out a shaky breath. "I thought I wasn't enough. For years. I thought if I worked harder, loved more, sacrificed more, he'd choose me." "He never deserved to choose you," Adrian replied. "And he never saw you, not really." She turned to him, startled by the certainty in his tone. Adrian leaned forward slightly, elbows resting on his knees. "You built a career from nothing. You carry yourself with grace even when you're breaking. And you still believe in the good in people, despite every reason not to. Ethan didn't just fail to appreciate you. He failed to recognize you." Lena blinked back tears, not from pain this time, but from something almost fragile. "Why are you being this kind to me?" He hesitated. His voice dropped to something closer, quieter. "Because I've watched you disappear behind Ethan for years. And now, for the first time, I see you stepping out." She inhaled sharply. His words didn't feel like comfort. They felt like truth. Truth she hadn't allowed herself to hear. Before she could speak, her phone buzzed again,
But this time, it wasn't cruelty. It was a message from an unknown tip source. If you want the evidence you're looking for, check the private drive labeled EH. You weren't supposed to find it. Attached was a single username and password. Lena's pulse kicked. Adrian, someone inside the company is helping me. Adrian straightened, all analysis and focus instantly. Then this just became bigger than we thought. Lena closed her hand around the phone, resolve forming like steel in her spine. For the first time, she wasn't reacting to Ethan's moves. She was taking the lead.
And Ethan had no idea the game had just changed.
The next morning at the cabin, Lena woke before sunrise, the ocean outside casting a soft, silver glow across the room. For the first time in days, her chest didn't feel crushed. The pain was still there, raw, bruised, but it wasn't steering her anymore. Something steadier had taken its place. Determination. She found Adrian in the kitchen, scrolling through his laptop, coffee steaming beside him. He looked up immediately. Couldn't sleep? Didn't need to, she said. I'm done falling apart. Adrian studied her for a moment. Her straighter posture, the calm in her eyes, the quiet strength replacing fear. Then we start today. They opened the anonymous message again. The private drive labeled EH sat like a locked door. Lena typed the login credentials with steady fingers. For a moment, the screen froze. Then it opened. Folder after folder appeared. Financial reports, private communications, internal memos. But one folder made Lena stop breathing. Projected liability coverage, L. Whitford. She clicked it. Inside were documents outlining exactly how Ethan planned to shift legal responsibility to her if the expansion scheme collapsed. He had mapped out the public response, the media strategy, even a psychological breakdown narrative to paint her as unstable. Lena felt nausea creep up her throat. He built a future where I was the fall. Adrian's voice hardened. And now we build a future where he is. She clicked into another file, a series of email drafts, all addressed to the board, claiming Lena was emotionally erratic and unfit to be informed about sensitive company information. Some were prepared months ago, long before the rooftop, long before the scandal.
He had been preparing her downfall from the start. Her hand curled into a fist.
He never loved me. I was an insurance policy.
A powerful one, Adrian corrected. Powerful enough that he's terrified of you finding out.
A slow breath left her lips. Not shaky, not broken. Controlled. She stood, crossing to the window. The early light reflected off the water, painting her silhouette with gold. Then we don't just expose him, she said quietly. We dismantle everything he built on my name. Adrian closed his laptop, eyes steady. You're ready. Lena turned back to him. No fear, no hesitation. I am. And in that moment, she wasn't Ethan's wife, or his shield, or his pawn. She was the storm coming for him. Back in Manhattan, Lena walked into Adrian's office with a steadiness that surprised even her. The city buzzed loudly outside, but inside, everything felt sharpened, focused. She wasn't the woman who had stood crying on a rooftop anymore. She was the woman who knew the truth, and the woman who had proof. Adrian spread the documents across the table, each page a nail in Ethan's coffin. If we're going to take this public, or to the board, we need airtight confirmation. Someone inside the company had access to these files, someone who knew Ethan's plans. Lena nodded. The anonymous message, it wasn't random. Someone wants him exposed. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Which means someone close to him is ready to turn. Lena hesitated. But who? Before Adrian could answer, his phone buzzed. A single text. He read it, then looked up, eyebrows raised. Well, that didn't take long. What does it say? Lena asked. It says, Meet me tonight. I know everything, and I want Ethan out. Lena's heartbeat quickened. Who sent it? Adrian turned the screen. A name Lena never expected. Jonathan Pierce, Senior VP, and one of Ethan's closest allies. A man who had stood beside Ethan at every corporate gala. A man who once shook Lena's hand and told her Ethan had married up. A man who knew the company inside out. Lena exhaled slowly. Why would he help us? Adrian leaned back. Because loyalty in corporate America has an expiration date, and Ethan must have crossed a line. Lena stared out the window at the skyline, remembering every time she had felt outnumbered, outplayed, outmaneuvered. But not tonight. Tonight, she had leverage. We'll meet him, she said, but on our terms. A small smile tugged at Adrian's lips. Already prepared. He pulled out a small recording device, sleek and discreet. If Jonathan's ready to talk, we capture everything. Ethan won't escape this. Lena's hands no longer trembled when she took it. Good. Adrian's gaze softened as he studied her. You know, most people break under this kind of pressure. But you... I'm done breaking, Lena interrupted. Ethan built a story where I was the weak link. I'm about to rewrite it. As they gathered the files, the sun dipped behind the skyline, casting Manhattan in deep gold. A perfect color for war. Tonight, they would meet the insider. And tonight, the first domino in Ethan Hale's empire would fall. Jonathan Pierce chose a discreet location for the meeting, a dim corner booth at the River Cafe in Brooklyn. The Manhattan skyline stretched across the water like a glittering witness. Lena had been here once with Ethan, on an anniversary he later admitted he'd forgotten. Tonight, the place felt different. Tonight, she wasn't the woman being overlooked. She was the woman being feared. Adrian arrived with her, his presence steady, calculated. They spotted Jonathan already seated, a half-finished whiskey in front of him. But what caught Lena's attention wasn't the drink. It was the tremor in his hand. He was scared. Good. Jonathan stood when they approached. Lena, Adrian, thanks for coming. Lena's voice was cool, controlled. You said you know everything. Start talking. Jonathan swallowed hard and leaned forward. Ethan's operation, it's bigger than fraud. He's been shifting assets through dummy branches for 2 years. Savannah handles the external narrative, but it's Ethan who built the machinery. Lena's pulse quickened. And my part in it? Jonathan closed his eyes for a moment. You were the legitimacy, the credible spouse, the clean signature, the emotional bait. The board trusts women like you, polished, steady, invisible unless needed. Invisible. The word hit Lena like a blade, but it only sharpened her resolve. Adrian pressed on. Why come to us now? You've helped him for years. Jonathan nodded, guilt flashing across his face. Because he turned on me last week. Said if anything went wrong, he'd pin part of this on me, too. He threatened my position, my family. And Savannah, she's been pulling strings behind the scenes. Ethan's planning to replace half the executive team. Lena narrowed her eyes. So you want revenge? I want survival, Jonathan corrected. But helping you is the only way to stop him before he takes down all of us. He slid a flash drive across the table. This has internal memos, transaction routes, and Ethan's private communications with Savannah. If you present this to the board at the Winter Gala, he's finished. Lena stared at the drive, feeling the weight of it, heavy, dangerous, powerful. Adrian gave a subtle nod.
This is enough to start a full investigation. Jonathan ran a hand through his hair. Just be careful. Ethan doesn't fail gracefully.
Lena picked up the drive, her grip firm. Neither do I. Outside, the skyline sparkled, beautiful, sharp, and waiting. Because tonight wasn't just a meeting. It was the opening move of Ethan Hale's downfall. The winter gala arrived faster than Lena expected, but not faster than she was ready for. For days, she and Adrian had reviewed every document Jonathan provided, rehearsing timelines, anticipating Ethan's defenses, preparing for the moment the truth would shatter his carefully constructed empire. And now, stepping out of the black car onto the marble entrance of the Hale Corporation's annual winter gala, she felt the shift, like the city itself paused to watch. Cameras flashed instantly, not with sympathy, with shock, because Lena Whitford wasn't hiding. She was radiant. Her black Dior gown flowed like liquid night, paired with a quiet confidence that no headline could tarnish. She walked into the ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, the same place Ethan had celebrated his 10 years with Savannah, holding her head higher than she ever thought possible. People whispered. Executives paused mid-sentence. Even investors turned to stare. Then Ethan appeared. He froze the moment he saw her, champagne glass in hand, Savannah glued to his side. His smile faltered just for a second, before he patched it with arrogance. "Lena," he said, stepping forward, voice dripping control. "I didn't expect you here." She smiled lightly. "I know. That's what makes this fun." Savannah scoffed. "You shouldn't be causing scenes. It's embarrassing." "Oh, Savannah," Lena replied. "Tonight hasn't even begun." Before either could respond, a board member approached them, Mr. Harrington, a man whose approval shaped the company's future. "Mrs. Hale, I'm glad you came. We need to discuss something sensitive regarding financial inconsistencies." Ethan stepped in. "There's no need. My wife isn't—" "She is," Harrington cut him off. "Her signature is on every expansion approval." Ethan paled. Savannah stiffened. Lena did not. She reached into her clutch and pulled out the flash drive Jonathan had given her. "Actually, I brought something for the board. Evidence, correspondence, transaction trails, and a clear outline of who orchestrated the scheme." The room went silent. Ethan's voice trembled. "Lena, you don't know what you're doing." But she did. For the first time in 5 years, she knew exactly what she was doing. Harrington gestured for the security team. "Mr. Hale, you'll come with us for questioning, now." Savannah's face drained of color. "This isn't happening." "Oh, it is," Lena said softly. "Narratives work both ways." As security escorted Ethan away, cameras captured everything. And Lena didn't look away, because tonight was no longer his gala. It was her justice. The ballroom buzzed like a shaken beehive. Executives whispered. Investors watched with narrowed eyes. And at the center of it all, Ethan Hale, once untouchable, adored, feared, was being escorted through the gilded doors of the Plaza Hotel by corporate security. His face, usually composed and confident, was contorted with a mixture of rage and disbelief. Lena stood still, not trembling, not hiding, just watching the man who had once vowed to love her finally face the consequences he believed he was above. Savannah rushed after him, heels clacking sharply across the marble. "Ethan, do something! Stop them!" Ethan snapped back. "Be quiet, Savannah. This is your fault, too." That single sentence froze her in place. Heads turned. Whispers intensified. Savannah's carefully crafted public image, charming, sophisticated, fractured in an instant. Lena didn't move. She didn't need to. The truth was unraveling on its own. Just then, Jonathan Pierce stepped forward, addressing the board members clustered near the stage. "Everything Mrs. Whitford presented lines up with the discrepancies we've seen. I can confirm Ethan and Savannah bypassed protocol repeatedly. They misled the board, the employees, and the public." Gasps rippled through the room. Even the orchestra faltered, the music dying mid-note. Savannah's voice cracked. "Jonathan, you traitor." "No," he replied sharply. "I'm done protecting criminals." Security returned to the ballroom seconds later. Mr. Hale is being detained until authorities arrive. Ethan lunged against their grip, shouting, "Lena, you think this will save you? You think you can ruin me?" Lena stepped closer, her expression calm, eerily calm. "You ruined yourself. I'm just making sure the world sees it." The board chair, Mr. Harrington, approached her. "Mrs. Whitford, we owe you an apology, and our gratitude. Without your intervention, this corporation would have suffered catastrophic damage." Ethan's face twisted with fury as he screamed, "She's nothing. She was always nothing." Lena lifted her chin. "If I were nothing, you wouldn't have needed me to hide behind." That silenced him more effectively than security ever could. As Ethan was dragged out of the ballroom, flashes erupted, photographers capturing the exact moment his empire collapsed. Savannah attempted to slip away unnoticed, but security blocked her path. "Miss Brooks, you need to come with us as well." Her lipstick trembled, her composure shattered. Lena didn't feel pity. Not anymore. Tonight was justice. And justice wasn't gentle. The morning after the gala, headlines exploded across every major news outlet. Ethan Hale's arrest dominated the front pages, his downfall dissected in real time. But woven between the chaos was a name the world suddenly wanted to know. Lena Whitford, the woman who exposed him. She read none of it. Instead, she sat on a quiet bench overlooking the East River, wrapped in a coat as the winter sun warmed the frozen edges of her world. For the first time in years, she felt light. Not untouched, her wounds were still tender, but free. Free from lies, free from manipulation, free from the man who had built a cage around her and called it love. Footsteps approached. She didn't need to turn to know it was Adrian. He sat beside her, not speaking at first, simply offering the kind of presence that expected nothing and gave everything. The kind she had never known she could have. "Authorities confirmed Ethan will face multiple federal charges," Adrian finally said. "Savannah, too. Their lawyers are scrambling." Lena nodded. "It's over then." "For them, yes," he said gently. "For you, it's beginning." She looked at him, really looked. He had been there on the worst night of her life, not to be a hero, but to be human. Steady, honest, unafraid to tell her the truth she needed. "Adrian," she murmured, "why did you help me?" He exhaled a small laugh. "Because you deserved better than the story he trapped you in. And because somewhere along the way..." He paused, choosing each word carefully. "I started caring." Her breath caught. Not from fear this time, but from something soft, warm, frighteningly hopeful. He continued, "You don't owe me anything. But if you ever want a life not built on lies, if you want something real, I'm here." Lena turned back to the river, tears blurring the skyline. Not sad tears, release, healing. She whispered, "I think I'm ready to live again, to choose for myself this time." Adrian smiled. "Then let's build something honest." He stood, offering her his hand, not forceful, not demanding, just open. She took it. As they walked along the water, sunlight pooling around them, Lena felt the old version of herself fall away like broken glass. She wasn't Ethan's wife. She wasn't a pawn. She wasn't a victim. She was the woman who survived the fire and walked out shining. Justice served, heart restored, future hers. All right, my wonderful friends. The story has come to an end. But you're still here, aren't you? And if you are, that means something in Lena's journey has touched your heart in a way you maybe didn't expect. So now, let's take a quiet breath together and look at what this story truly whispers to us. Lena's journey reminds us of a powerful Stoic truth from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. We cannot control betrayal, cruelty, or the moments life collapses beneath our feet. But we can choose how we rise, how we rebuild, and who we become afterward. Her story isn't just about revenge. It's about reclaiming dignity, rediscovering self-worth, and understanding that sometimes losing someone is the beginning of finding ourselves again. Another Stoic wisdom says, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Ethan tried to break her, but his betrayal became the doorway to Lena's rebirth, stronger, clearer, and finally loved the way she deserved. And maybe, just maybe, you see a piece of your own story in hers. So, if this touched you, even a little, give this video a like, share it with someone who might need the reminder, and subscribe for more stories that heal, empower, and stay with you long after they end. You're not alone. This story is a work of fiction created solely for entertainment, emotional reflection, and storytelling purposes. All characters, events, and situations are imagined and are not based on real individuals or real companies. Any resemblance to actual people or organizations is purely coincidental. Our goal is to explore human emotions, growth, and resilience through dramatic narratives, not to present factual claims or real-life accusations. Viewers should understand that this storyline is meant to inspire, comfort, and provoke thought, especially for those who may connect with themes of healing, self-worth, and personal transformation. Thank you for watching with an open heart and enjoying the creative journey. Please continue supporting the channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing so we can bring you more meaningful stories crafted with care.